What's up, everybody? I'm Jess.
And I'm Ben. We are the hosts of Podcast of the Rings, your guide with everything Lord of the Rings.
Rings of Power is premiering on August 29th, and we're going to be your companions through that every day after a new episode of Rings of Power drops. You can expect an episode from us. So what you got to do right now is hit like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, or subscribe to us on your preferred podcast player so you don't miss a beat.
If you join our Patreon, you'll be able to join us for our weekly Discord discussions about every episode and a watch along of the finale on October 3rd.
We're like the best friends, if I dare say fellowship, through this journey with you. So make sure.
I see what you did there, Jessica.
So don't miss out. We want you to join us on our journey. And Ben,
I don't know if you guys caught that, but Jessica said the word fellowship, and there's a movie from Lord of the Rings called Fellowship of the Ring. Like, jeez. This is why we're doing this, honestly.
End commercial and on to the episode.
In the end, the shadow is but a small and passing thing. There is light and high beauty forever beyond its reach. Find the light, and the shadow will not find you.
R.I.P. Bronwyn.
And you know who the other quote is from?
What?
Adar.
What a unfortunate thing for that actor to have to step in and do, honestly, because Joseph Malway is so... We said it a million times on our rewatch of season 1 how great he is. We were rewatching and recapping season 1 knowing that Joseph Malway isn't going to be in this season, and it's just a rough position for this actor to come in. And
yeah, and it's almost like they're kind of giving him a Joseph Malway face, and I wish they wouldn't have.
Just let him be a new bro. Like
have him called Adar, and even, you know, they just did it in the MCU with Harrison Ford taking over for the guy,
the dead guy.
Yeah, the dead. I can't think of his name right now.
R.I.P.
Yeah, but like, you know, they've done it twice where they recasted Terrence Howard, and Don Cheadle comes in. He's like, "This is me. I'm him. Deal with it." And then this time he's like, "Oh, Mr. President, I like the new look." And he's like, "Oh, they said shave the mustache or lose the election." Like, nope. No one's gonna bat an eyelash.
No.
Recastings happen. Obviously, death happens. But it's like, so you have to do it for one reason or the other. And if you're not going to release why you recasted them, then just like make it a new orc. I don't know. Well, no,
Joseph left, I believe.
Okay.
He left the program real early. And whether that's because he didn't like it or not, I think he remained silent. But we know about him to be a real consummate actor. That guy, did like 6 miles hard running before each take or whatever. So he was a heavy hitter, and I have my opinions as to why he left. But what we're here to do today, on the week of season 2, Rings of Power premiere, is to talk about our hopes, our wishes, our dreams, our disappointments, what we think now that we've gotten basically every trailer under our belt, and just kind of talk about the state of the Rings of Power fandom just a little bit before we set out on our journey. And as we said at the top of the podcast, we're going to shift our release date, which is normally Tuesdays, to Thursday in order to accommodate for to Friday, in order to accommodate for the Thursday release of every episode. So now through October 3rd, we're yours, baby. We're doing the darn thing.
We are. Well, Jess is going to be working overtime because we're going to watch all 3 episodes, do separate episodes for each Rings of Power episode because they're doing a 3-episode premiere.
Which is kind of, I'm going to start there. What the hell?
I like it.
Why?
I think it's a good way to hook the audience because
they were so disappointed before.
Not disappointed, but in a way, it just depends on, what the structure of the season is. My guess is at the end of the 3rd episode, the battle for Eregion is going to begin.
Interesting.
And so you get through, people love their binging. People love to binge watch. And I'm a little bit of both minds where if you're going to do a show and structure it like a binge watch, which is what I think House of Dragon Season 2 did, then it might work. But if you're going to do a week to week, it doesn't need to be some giant cliffhanger or anything like that. But, rewatching Game of Thrones, there's always something like, oh, it does end on some kind of note there. Okay, what's going to happen next week? And so I feel like doing at least the 3 episodes, you're like, okay, we got, this conversation, that conversation, this guy went here, they went there. Let's watch the next episode and see what happens.
Right.
And then maybe, 4 through 8, there is a big cliffhanger. They win the battle of the night, and then Elrond looks over and you see Adar and the orcs coming out of the forest for round 2 or something like that. Cut to black.
Yeah.
I don't know. So like I feel like WandaVision was a perfect example because, that was the first MCU television show. We were all in the pandemic and everyone was just fiending for content. And so
totally,
you watch the first episode of WandaVision, the black and white one, and there's it's a really good homage to that kind of TV, but there's not much there, except I think there's a little airplane at the end. But then the end of episode 2 is a big cliffhanger, and you're like, okay, that's what they're doing. So we'll see if they structure it like that. I'm expecting at least one big cliffhanger at the end of episode 3. But I like it is tough for, people like us that, do this, but I think it's good.
Maybe that's what I'm feeling.
No, I totally understand that, doing 3 separate episodes, editing, uploading, all that stuff, and hopefully not overloading people with clicks and, the algorithm's like, you put out 2 videos this week and we're going to bury this 3rd one. So it definitely happens, but I understand why they're doing the 3 episodes.
I also thought it was stemming from hey, you guys didn't put a lot of faith in us last season, and let us show you kind of where we're heading. We're not going to make you wait to see all that we've accomplished, because as far as the trailers really have gone, they've convinced me that this is a banger season.
Yes.
And I also this is where my hindsight has changed multiple times. When we were doing the rewatch and doing episode by episode, I was like, God, this really can drag. This really does. But thanks to you guys and your comments, I really do now see it as a prologue. Here are all the things you need to know. Let's live in Middle Earth. Let's see what the status of the world is. And now we're going to really throw a wrench into it. I think one of the most important things you brought up, and a very valid criticism of the first season, was nothing was right in Lord of the Rings, or in Rings of Power. Nothing. Everyone had a hard time. Even Numenor, which is supposed to be this glorious world, no one was having a good go. Now, I'm just thinking of this now, and maybe other people who are smarter than me have already thought about this. That's why Sauron wants to take over, because all he wants is order. All he wants are people to be in their place, and he thinks he has the solution. I didn't think about that until just now. That everyone is a little bit upset. It's pre-election, and he's really putting up his bid. So that could be the reason why no one's really happy. But we don't see. So
is Adar going for vice president or something like that, or is he?
Is he the JFK in this?
Is he the RFK?
Yeah,
where he wanted to take over for Sauron, but then
he is ripped.
Couldn't beat him. He is ripped.
Does that make Galadriel Kamala Harris? I don't want to do this.
No, we don't have to do this. We don't have
I'm just saying.
We don't have to recast the election, okay?
We were doing, if you are only joining us just for Rings of Power content, Ben and I, in waiting for Rings of Power, we're doing what we called Beyond Middle Earth, where we watched all the best works as voted on by you, the viewer, of the Fellowship cast. So we, at the second half of those episodes, we'd recast everyone but the main character. Let's say it was Galadriel, aka Cate Blanchett, we'd have to recast everyone in Thor Ragnarok with actors from Lord of the Rings. So
Great
that was
times.
fun. It was a really good time. We left Billy Boyd in the dust because, man, there's really not a lot to write home about there.
Yeah, I do. If we could talk about that just for a second,
sure,
why do you think it didn't happen for him?
Billy Boyd?
Because, the least you could say, probably second of, didn't happen for him is probably Dominic, but he was on the biggest television show in the 2000s, and
right.
I feel like the only reason it's not looked at as one of the greatest television is because of the writer's strike. That was the only, bad thing that happened to Lost, was that same with, Heroes, there was plenty of shows you could point to of why it didn't work because of that strike. but Lost is definitely like the prime example that everyone points to. So why do you think it didn't happen for?
Well, it's a great question, and I'm going to only be able to answer it from the perspective I have as an actor. Actors do best, to their chagrin or success. Some people resent this, some people lean in when they operate within the confines of their type. Now, you might say that that's limiting, but if you can blow that out on a bigger scale, a great example is like Kathy Bates. If you saw Kathy Bates be cast in a role of...
As a Native American woman in a Rob Reiner movie?
We did cover North, and she shows up in brownface, and it's jarring.
Yes.
But there, she is the put-upon caretaker. That is like a phrase that Kathy Bates embodies, is strong woman, but she's put upon. Or she has a situation that she didn't choose, right? Mm-hmm. If you put her in like the hot woman role or the, funny comedic relief, that's not her role. She operates in, I empathize with her, she can handle business. And yeah, that blows out to her being the CEO who doesn't want to deal with Michael Scott or whatever in The Office. And that goes to the one she's in with James Caan. It would be the same as if you like put Tom Cruise in a nerdy role. Those movies don't do well when you're like, God, I just don't believe you as that dude. So there's possibility. This is also not my theory. A lot of branding and a lot of thought has gone into this. And when you operate in your wheelhouse, you're more successful. I have a feeling Billy Boyd either didn't embrace what he brought to the table, which was this goofy, kind of short, Hobbit-esque dude. Like, he definitely got pigeonholed as that for sure. And he was trying to operate against the grain as something like, here's the thing, you're an actor, you can do any role. We're capable of that. He could play King Lear with the right director. So as an actor, your ego's going, but I don't want to just play like a hobbit. If you want to be successful in Hollywood, you gotta. So that's my thought is maybe he bucked that.
That's the thing is that like, I feel like he had to be getting like bad advice from somebody. Like this can't be that because he would have at least gotten some especially around this time where like, Judd Apatow was just starting. We were still getting mainstream comedy movies. Mm-hmm. We were still getting all these things in theaters that were successful. Unlike now, I mean, now you'd see him in like 10 Netflix movies at the very least or something.
Sure, that's a good point.
But
or
even
a Hallmark or something like that.
But like back then, like, why isn't he the nerdy lab technician on CSI?
God, it's
why
so
isn't
true.
he like in some kind of network show exactly like Dominic Monaghan? We're like, okay, for people that don't know, like back then, doing TV was like not looked down upon, but it definitely wasn't movies. There was the delineation of like, oh, you're a TV actor? Okay, dude. Like even George Clooney, they're like, can he make the jump? We don't know. And so there was definitely like that line of demarcation that does not exist anymore. Almost every A-list star has some prestige television show that they do now.
Especially if they want to work. Like a Nicole Kidman, right? Like she's got to do TV.
Nicole Kidman, Jake Gyllenhaal, like I feel like Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson was kind of like the first one of like, oh, Matthew McConaughey just won an Oscar and this is his next thing he's doing is True Detective? Right. Okay. Right. But like, I just don't, he had to be getting bad advice of someone that's like, no, you don't, like, I feel like someone told him, you don't want to get pigeonholed, wait for some serious dramatic role, try and, buck the trend or something. And then when the phone calls just stopped coming, that was it. Because it's really so strange to me that like he didn't do like anything.
It's possible he also didn't want to. It's very also possible. Because he might just be going, man, that's a heck of a paycheck. I just spent, 4 years of my life doing the coolest thing possible.
But did they? Because wasn't there like a quote like just the other day of Cate Blanchett saying like, we got free food and that's basically all we got from Lord of the Rings? Like, I think I got to keep a prop or something.
To this day?
Let me see. I thought I saw that.
Because you're right. I did see that too. But I got to imagine there's some sort of residual built into it. I mean, it'd be curious to listen to Friendship Onion and see what he thinks.
I'd like to, honestly.
Because at the end of the day, too, he also walked away with lifelong friends, And so I have to wonder if he was getting advice like that, who was giving him advice? was it an agent or something like that? I just think he didn't know what lane to operate in, ultimately.
Yeah. Cohen asked about her biggest paycheck, which she guessed was for Lord of the Rings. She replied, quote, "Are you kidding me? No one got paid anything to do that movie," end quote.
It's possible that she means for doing that, maybe not post. I wonder if there's post things.
They might have
in.
gotten some back-end deal, but I don't know. Quote, "No, that was way before any of that. No, nothing. I wanted to work with the guy who made Brain Dead. I mean, I basically got free sandwiches and I got to keep my ears. No one got paid anything."
Whoa. Okay, maybe you just have the legacy of being the hottest elf on the planet then, you know? Or the fun or the dorkiest.
And that's the thing, is that I feel like, for Sean Astin, he got his biggest roles before this movie. So like he was fine, and then I don't know.
Elijah learned how to be creepy and
yeah.
And
that's
like,
the thing, is that Elijah did buck that trend. He's like, I'm gonna go in the opposite direction and, eat prostitutes in Sin City and be the weird little guy.
But I think you'd find that he still is like the vulnerable guy. Like you can play horror and you can play rom-com and be successful in both those if you still bring the core elements of what you operate in. I argue to myself all the time, I don't know 100% what I bring to the table as an actor for on screen. That's why I don't work that much, because I don't go, I am the it mom, or I'm the mom that everyone's jealous of, or I'm the fucking nerdy mom, and I'm saying mom because that's my age category. Like if I wanted to work, I have to lean into that world. It's not an easy thing, but you do need to either know it. Some people are blessed to be like plopped right into it. Someone can see, like Melissa McCarthy, right? She knows exactly what she offers and she delivers it every single time, and it's fresh. That would be my thought. We still have to do Billy Boyd. We'll do a poll for either Master and Commander or Seed of Chucky. I was gonna make us watch Grey's Anatomy because I love that, but it's not a good episode. So
is it really? Is it not?
It's just Grey's Anatomy.
Save a life.
I mean, God, there's nothing compared to that first 5 seasons of TV. I'm telling you,
dude. Like procedurals, they work for a reason. Like, hate on them all you want. Scrubs works, House works, Grey's works. Like it. Like I just got done with the Newsroom and all. Like it was a rewatch, but I'm like, man, the drama really does work, man.
You're sucked in, and if you can keep the threads going, you can always fold new characters in. Grey's Anatomy's in season 21. Anyway, Rings of Power is only 5 seasons. I love let's talk about like the status of. It's really been interesting doing the trailer reviews because we're getting a wide swath of comments. I love the people that think this is going to get canceled or that this is the season. And you said this before, and you're totally right. If Jeff Bezos, for some reason, decides to have an opinion on this one day, he could pull the plug. He certainly could. He could. But there's also so much money at this point that like he's making money whether you're talking negatively about it or positively. If you go search a Lord of the Rings thing to buy a book on Amazon, he's making money. That's what this is. It's one of the best monopolization of a franchise. Because like he also owns the outlet where you buy the things about it. So it's genius. It doesn't matter what the fuck you think about it or what Ben and I think about it. It really doesn't.
No, he's got the game fixed 6 ways from Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Like every arrow points to profit right now.
Oh,
but we've seen so many shows just like that do well even in the first season. And that's the thing, is that I don't know if it's true that like negatively or positively they're winning, because you could say that about literally The Acolyte, and Disney's like, nah, we're good.
Yeah, but they don't control the source of how you. I mean, they do, because you can go to the Star Wars land or whatever. I think those kind of TV shows, just in general, there's Star Wars fatigue.
I think Lucasfilm is just like possibly one of the worst run companies.
It's not Lucasfilm anymore. It's only Disney that's churning this out. Look, they like the name Lucasfilm.
Yeah, it's like Pixar and Disney. Still a separate like.
Okay.
The parent company is Disney, but like they do have like their own stuff. It's the same with like, you know, Kevin Feige's the head of Marvel.
Lucasfilm owns all its own. It doesn't. I'm sorry. Lucasfilm still makes its own content, but anything that's made as Star Wars right now is Disney, and I think Lucasfilm is being shown at the front like as a courtesy because it was purchased from the Star Wars was purchased from Lucasfilm.
It's still it's a different thing. Like it's still a different production.
I misunderstood it then.
Yeah, but I just think they're doing like a bad job. Like even, you know, like you look at this where I feel like Amazon's doing a better job of like insulating their actors and protecting them from a lot of like the vitriol that the internet can bring.
Sure.
And Lucasfilm isn't doing that. Even like in a weird way of like the South Korean actor from Squid Games was the lead in The Acolyte.
Oh, okay.
And he was kind of like the one thing that Lee Jung-jae, he was like the one thing that everyone was like, yeah, he's really good though. No matter, like, I feel like no matter what your opinion was
Manny Jacinto good?
He wasn't bad. I don't know. It's the same thing we were talking about. I only got The Good Place in my head. I think he did a good job, but like, I was still ready for him to be like, "Oh, do you want to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars?" Like, and that's not like his fault. It's because he was so good in The Good Place that I'm just like, man, I've still got that. It's the Michael Scott thing. Like, it's gonna take a minute before I believe Steve Carell is like a dramatic actor.
Totally.
But he did it because he kept at it and picked really good projects, and I'm looking forward to that for Manny Jacinto as well. I hope he gets more opportunities. He's extremely good looking, that's for sure.
I mean, that was basically my main takeaway. I was like, okay, you could take off your shirt some more and show us those. Yeah,
insane
totally.
Thirst. But even then, Lucasfilm like released this article saying like, oh, well, Keanu Reeves was the first choice. And it's like, why are you feeding the trolls? Why are you doing this to like even say like, oh man, we could have had Keanu? And I think even Leslie Headland came out and said like, no, that he was like Lee Jung-jae was the first choice that I had.
Why would they ever say that?
And that's the thing is that like, it feels like Lucasfilm is like purposely, they're like, oh, okay, we know we're going to listen to those Star Wars fans with the way The Last Jedi was completely basically retconned in The Rise of Skywalker. And then with this cancellation and then going above and beyond with like it was almost Keanu Reeves.
That's so upsetting actually, because it's just giving credence.
Yeah. It's very frustrating and super strange. So when it comes to Rings of Power, I do think Amazon's doing a better job. I've been loving the marketing, and I honestly, like, I'm a middle-aged white dude. I get, like, the best and worst of the internet. I get, like, a pretty big Venn diagram simply because that's the algorithm that is being pushed. Right. And that even in I've blocked plenty of things. I've said not interested on YouTube. I've said not interested on TikTok, etc. And it still comes through. It still comes through because that's what gets pushed and that's what gets the clicks. And so I do feel like even in my algorithm, most of this has been positive. Like, I feel like the negativity was much more prevalent for that first season, for the fallout of that first season. Because even if, you know, I'm with you with the prequelness or the prologue-ness of the first season, but then you look at the other prologue, which was House of the Dragon season 1, of just like, okay, we're gonna do a bunch of time skips. They're kids, now they're adults, now we're doing this, now they've been married for 3 years, okay, they got kids, now the war starts, and everyone's like, whoa, you did all that in 10 episodes, okay, let's go. And they're like, no, hold up. Like, pulled the e-brake, smoke's coming out of the engine, and then we're just like literally spinning our wheels for half of this season. So if like this is to go off the Olympics, like they hit some hurdles. They're on the ground right now.
Yeah,
and Rings of Power is the tortoise coming up from behind the rabbit, being like, oh, here we go. It's my turn now. And I'm feeling it. The momentum for this season, I feel like it's hitting full stride.
I couldn't agree with you more. I really couldn't. I think I just want to give like one of the things that's kind of overshadowed by a lot of like the hate comments are like people who actually have justifiable issues with the show, but also aren't racist and sexist. They just don't like how the show was formulated or whatever. Like, those people are entitled to those opinions. And I actually have to like just issue an apology too. Every time someone comments negatively about this show, I assume it's because they're racist or sexist.
And that's where the internet is because like I have an opinion on the Acolyte being canceled where I'm just like, guys, it just wasn't that good. But you can't, that's not allowed because then I'm a racist misogynist. And I'm just like, no, dude, like I watched the whole show with an open mind and I like The Last Jedi and I like a lot of Disney Star Wars and stuff like that. But like this was poorly paced. It was poorly written. There was no cliffhanger. They didn't finish the story they were telling. A lot of the dialogue was fucking nonsensical. There's some good stuff in there, but no, a $250 million budgeted show shouldn't guarantee a season 2 just because you plant the seeds for it. Like,
and
give me a season 1.
It didn't fail. And this is where it's tough to have that nuanced conversation because it didn't fail because it was diverse or inclusive or whatever. That's not why it failed. And shows that, are inclusive can succeed. But the problem is it gives credence to those kind of haters, those bigots, that they can point to that like, well, this is why it was canceled.
Yeah.
And you can't have a nuanced opinion, which is like, actually, no, it just wasn't good. Like, and you're going to get attacked for that. So I'm guilty of quickly making an assumption as to why someone's gone out of their way. And I'm personally going to work on that too. Now, if I could point back to our trailer for the War of the Rohirrim, the second you use the term fucking girl boss, it's over. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I actually have opinions. Like, I do have opinions that will
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. Boom, boom, boom.
Boom! I will say this, and we'll talk about it more when we actually get to the War of the Rohirrim. We'll obviously watch it. We'll obviously talk about it. My initial thought was, do I need another Eowyn story? Because that's what it feels like it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so that thing is not without its criticism. I don't care if it's about a chick that's awesome, but we already got the chick kind of bucking the system in the movies. So do we need this story?
Yeah, we already got the Shield Maiden of literally Rohan. Like, it's not even like a different country or province or whatever they're called, kingdom in Middle Earth. It is literally Rohan. She's blonde. She's like the daughter of a king, even though I know like Eowyn's the niece. I know that. Adopted daughter. Literally says in the fucking movie. Don't comment that. But it does feel very similar. And this is coming from an anime fan that was like hyped that it was an anime. So like,
it's probably going to be good. It's probably going to be good.
I hope it's good. I want it to be good. Like,
right.
I like Rings of Power, but I miss Lord of the Rings on the big screen.
Totally.
You're talking to a guy that defends the Hobbit movies. Like, I want to see this on the big screen. And so I'm there. And do I know that you're losing a portion of the audience? Because unfortunately, a portion of the audience is just like, oh, animated? It's for kids. Jesus Christ. Grow the fuck up, by the way.
Is that right? Do people actually say that? Oh,
God,
I didn't know that was that's actually, I just actually feel sad for them.
It's truly... Oh my gosh, there's a guy that I ran into that was like, I don't watch movies after 2010. And I was just like, what the fuck does that even mean? What does that even mean?
I'm sorry, bro. Like, enjoy the rest of your life for making that whole decree for yourself. What a fucking wild statement.
Yeah, I don't know. To each their own, but I'm just like, you're just missing out on so much.
Well, and that was my main point too, is like, you have no idea what this show is going to be about. You have no idea what War of the Rohirrim is going to be. Don't cut yourself off from liking something just because you're not quite sure about it. Maybe also shut the fuck up if you don't want to watch it. Just shut up.
And what a boring way where you're like, unless a white dude's at the front of it, like you think it's woke or it won't be good. Like, but then they'll watch like Mad Max Fury Road and be like, hell yeah, dude. Aliens? Oh my gosh. And it's like,
I know. It's a weird time. I can understand the fatigue of feeling like every show has to hit a certain quota and all those things. The change also that people are trying to make towards more inclusive storytelling and more diverse storytelling isn't really about you either. It's about the young kids coming up that need to be able to see themselves on TV. It really is. We can talk about it another time. I can understand to some extent why people are fatigued by it, because guess what? I was fatigued by the white guy story over and over again when I wasn't seeing myself well represented. And I'm a white woman that saw myself semi well represented in someone like a Trinity or whatever, or a Eowyn. But there are genuine criticisms one could have, especially with War Rohirrim. Do we need Eowyn's story? Is it going to be different? Was Rings of Power too slow? Did they change the story? Did they stretch it? I think those are valid criticisms. And I think this show particularly alienated those that know so much about Lord of the Rings. Because it really didn't alienate people that don't, you know? Because I know people who don't know that much about Lord of the Rings and loved the show. Loved it, Ben. Loved it.
And that's the thing, is that I feel like Rings of Power might have fumbled the bag of like, okay, if you know the appendices and the Silmarillion, that's great. We're going to try and honor that as much as we can because of copyright issue. But then even for new people that, you know, that don't know about it, and, you know, I've read the Silmarillion, but, you know, I couldn't tell you much about. I was like, oh, you know, okay, did this happen? Did that happen? Sure, whatever. Silmarillion's a tough read, y'all. Sorry. But even then, it was just like, okay, so what are you doing to bring new fans in? Or just fans of the movies? What are you doing to bring those people in? And I feel like they kind of fumbled that as well.
I think that's why they made Galadriel the lead, though.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, but it's just like there wasn't that much action. There wasn't that, like, you know, that scintillating dialogue that really pulls you in.
It's so true.
And there wasn't, you know, the audience surrogate of the hobbits that you're really rooting for. Like,
well, they tried and they weren't interesting.
God. But I'm sorry, no, you can't try with, oh, we don't leave you behind. Bye, bitch, we're taking your fucking wheels. Like, sorry, you twisted your ankle. Time to feed you to the wolves. Literally.
We wait for you. We don't.
No, just kidding. Like, ironically.
Yeah, they're so poorly written. They're so poorly written. Show us the makings of the Hobbit. You know, don't get me wrong. Belladonna took, or whatever the fuck. There's the bitch. No, Belladonna's the mom.
What a
the bitches that wanted the bitch that stole the forks and wanted to get rid of. There are nasty hobbits out there.
Yes. The Saxville Bagginses.
They're bastards. So there's shitty behavior, and that's going to happen when you live in a small community. But fundamentally, these people are built on
their credence, like their motto that they say, "We wait for you." Meanwhile, they're just like, he's 10 feet behind us. Should we club him in his other leg and then take his wheels and leave his entire family to be murdered?
1,000.
Tough decision.
1,000%.
It says it in our Harfoot Bible that's what we should do.
Actually, the almanac is saying this is probably what happens to your family.
Yeah.
It's wrong. It's all wrong. You can't make us empathize with these people. There's nothing to. You know what? I'm gonna put this flag in the ground. If Nori had said, "What the hell is wrong with us?"
Yeah.
She could have been an even more interesting protagonist. She really could have.
And honestly, like we've been reposting our season 1 review in preparation for season 2. So that's the thing, is that we're not. I'd love to be paid by Amazon. Jeff Bezos, if you're listening, I will lie about how much I love this show. Unabashedly, for money.
All right, clip it.
But we have plenty of criticisms about season 1. Things we wish we would have seen, characters we wish we would have grown more attached to, things we wish we would have happened. But that doesn't lessen the fact that, you know what, we're going to go into season 2 with an open mind. I'm sorry, the trailers are good. Argue with a fucking wall if you think the trailers are bad. Like, you could not be interested. You can be like, oh, you know what? Season 1 didn't do it for me. There's way too much good television and good movies out there. I don't have time for this. There's legit reasons why you shouldn't watch season 2. And that can be your own. You can't fucking say it's because the trailers were bad. The trailers fucking ruled, and you know it. Like, You
Even
are
if
talking to
only
the
say-
biggest Richard Aramayo critic of he is not Hugo Weaving. This is
so
not
true.
my Lord of the Rings when it comes to everybody needs to be a hot badass. I'm sorry. He is a fucking hot badass in these trailers.
It's so true. I wish I had it in me to hypercut all the times you spoke poorly about baby daddy, baby girl, Elrond.
Yep, I'm here for it.
You know what? This is what I admire about you, and this is the level to which I esteem most people and why I choose to keep certain people close. If you have the ability to say, I was wrong, I don't know. It doesn't get much better than that. It doesn't get much better than that.
And there were moments that I like Elrond and Durin, best part of the show. So I like Richard Aramayo as an actor.
That's a really fair point to your
But
credit.
I just didn't I'm like, oh man, he doesn't have that Hugo Weaving fucking I don't look at Richard Aramayo and be like, oh my god, he lived through the war, the Second Age, the Last Alliance. How did he make it to the ships after everything he did? Well, I look at that Hugo Weaving, I'm like, I get it. I didn't see that in Richard Aramayo. I see it now.
Which is why we're growing with them, Ben.
Yes.
Which is why, because this Elrond hasn't. He's gone through some trauma. This Elrond, why the hell did that get brighter? My light, if you're watching on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
It's not supposed to do that on its own. But then when he turns that knife, when he's like about to fight the barrow wives or some barrow wives. The Nazgirls.
Jessica's trying to woke up the Lord Power over here.
No, I'm about to create a fucking Bravo TV show. The Real Barrow Wives.
I would absolutely watch The Real Housewives of the Shire. Because they gossip. There's nothing else to do but gossip in the Shire.
Oh my God. But I think it would be instead the house husbands. I think they would be the ones that gossip because the women are like keeping it down. They're keeping the kids down. They're too busy. They're working the taverns. That's what the gossip is
about. Like, all you see is men rolling a pumpkin down the street
and
then going to the Green Dragon.
Oh my God. And then you get like an elf walking through your town and everyone's talking about it. Holy Ben, you just created a whole new subgenre.
I'm there for it. Because like even when Bedelia, like she walks in with like her 10 kids, I don't see the husband there. Where's he at? He's probably 9 pints deep of Gaffer's old ale over there while she's got to babysit the kids at the party.
Can you imagine the talking heads on those alone? Jesus Christ, this is so exciting. This is such a great idea. All right, let's pivot now that we kind of have like gotten on the level with y'all, especially if you're just finding us. We are not without our criticisms of Rings of Power, but we are on like the hopeful tip. We really are. What are we hoping to get out of this season? Can be like as specific as I want to see Galadriel and Sauron kiss. It could be open, like I just want to feel like I like this show. What in general do you think you're hoping out of all this? It's a heavy sigh.
It's a heavy sigh because like I feel like a lot of people don't know that this is going to be 4 seasons of our main characters getting their asses kicked. Like Sauron just wins for an age.
Yeah, that's a really
for a literal age.
That's a really
and
good
that's
point.
how I'm wondering how they're going to do time skips in this if they are, because where's this? I don't want to like jump to season 5 finale or something like that, but I'm wondering like what the end goal of the show is. Is it the Last Alliance? Because that's not for a couple thousand years, right? Am I wrong in that? I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think they truncated so much of this time that I wouldn't even hold it to that at all.
But it's like, is Sauron gonna rule for like 20 years, like or something? Like, I don't know. It's a weird thought to have, but I feel like this show is going to be. I think what they're trying to do here is like. I know we called season 1 a prologue, but I feel like they want to have like their Empire Strikes Back right now. I think our characters are going to be lost. I think they're going to be scattered. I think they're going to get their asses kicked. And, maybe in the finale, it's going to be like, oh, here's our mission. Here's how we can, fight back after losing a Region. I don't know if Numenor falls this season. Maybe not. Maybe that's season 3.
I think that's season 3. That's a really good point.
Yeah. So
that's
maybe
a really
like
good question.
Maybe they end up in Numenor and be like, okay, here's where will strike back from a place of strength, Numenor, and everyone's like, oh, like,
because Anatar goes to Numenor. He needs to go back. Pharazôn needs to take over and declare himself king. All those kind of things.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like, we're probably building to whatever new wig Halbrand's gonna wear in season 3. Will he wear wigs?
Will he wear wigs? For they were fooled. For another wig was made.
It's so fucking good.
That might be top 5 comments of social media ever. Like, in the history of YouTube comments.
It's so good. It's
really good. So yeah, I think you're right. Probably Numenor is next season because you can only I think the fall of Eregion is the big thing this year. I don't.
Then
think
everyone scatters. Then the War of the Last Alliance is the final season. Yeah.
So yeah, like I think I want to get to know these characters. Is Theo Arondir's son?
Oh.
I think we find out this season.
Oh, I really didn't believe that, but okay.
I really am gonna miss Bronwyn because I need a good love story, and right now we don't have one. Like, you can have the sexual tension of Sauron and Galadriel. I'm here for it, and the sexual tension of Sauron and Celebrimbor. You just got
haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate. You can't deny. You know what? He's a deceiver, and sex sells, baby. But yeah, Sauron's basically like an OnlyFans girl. But he's just pretending to have relationships with everybody and just giving them money.
You know, I there was one creator that I followed on OnlyFans because I was like, they get down. And then I started becoming too jealous. This was before Alex. I was becoming too jealous because they were with so many multiple other creators to create their content.
You parasocial mofo.
Well, I just wanted it either to be one that they were with,
or you.
No, not necessarily. I wouldn't have gotten down with them, but I liked watching what they did and how they did it. But I felt sick to my stomach that it was with multiple partners.
Jessica created her own reality show out of an OnlyFans creator.
I'm such a monogamist that I can't. And I was reflecting it too much against a relationship I had with a fuckboy, and I was like, that's a fuckboy. I can't watch it. But anyway, I digress. The TMI section of Jessica's podcast.
TMI corner with Jessica. But I'm looking forward, honestly, to the All Is Lost season, which I think is what we're getting. I think, Celebrimbor, I don't know if they're going to go full fucking Silmarillion and use him as a banner, like, in the front of Sauron's army, like they do in the book.
What does that mean? I don't know what you're talking about.
Like, I'm pretty sure, because I was reading about this, that, like, Sauron, like, strings Celebrimbor up and, like, he's, like, a banner in front of their army, like, after he's, like, been fully betrayed and stuff.
Are you fucking kidding?
It's a pretty brutal death. Like, Sauron's an evil motherfucker.
Celebrimbor, we're gonna lose him, is what you're saying.
It seems like it.
I didn't even think about that. So this is what... So if you guys don't know, also, Ben and I do a Patreon exclusive House of the Dragon podcast. And I'm doing my best to avoid any information about what happens to the dragons. Or what happens in this story, even though it's history for Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I don't know the Fire and Blood either.
Although I did see a tweet that was like, me going into House of the Dragon, knowing that this is about the fall of the Targaryens and how all the dragons died, but then all the Targaryens die and all the dragons are dying, and I don't want it to happen. So there's things that people may know, like with the Celebrimbor thing, so spoilers. If he dies, like, some people are gonna die, like Elendil dies, like he dies on the Battle of the Last Alliance. We know that from the movie, but I don't know that about Celebrimbor, and I'm really sad.
I think it's gonna be a good season of, like, I think this is where we get attached to these guys. I think kind of Rings of Power kept us a bit at arm's reach in season 1. And I think this is where we really start to embrace these characters as they go through these trials and tribulations. And I'm really excited for, the big battle of Eregion, but I'm also excited for, like, the quiet moments with all these people because, we're with our House of the Dragon podcast, we were pivoting to watching Game of Thrones weekly on Patreon if you want to join us there. Jessica has never seen it. And so all these little moments of, in King's Landing, Arya water dancing with her sword master, like all these moments that really attach us to these people is what brings us back to the show.
So I'm just going to temper your expectations there. I think unless the showrunners made a drastic change, I don't know that we're going to get that same political intrigue that Game of Thrones has with the tete-a-tete, like the word dancing and all that. I really don't think so. We only occasionally got some really good scenes between quote-unquote Halbrand and Galadriel last season, and the majority of the meat, raw meat, was Elrond and Durin.
Yeah.
There was, like, you're so right that there was some beautiful love. They did the love story right with Bronwyn and Arondir. And they also know he's your fighter, right? So I think we're going to get some awesome, amazing fights with him. I'm not hopeful that we're going to get amazing dialogue that's going to inspire us like Game of Thrones makes us feel like intrigued, you know?
I don't think it needs to be like, a 1-for-1 thing, but just like, what's going to bring me back for 5 seasons? Because, according to the Silmarillion, we are going to lose people, obviously. And, maybe the Queen of Numenor dies this season as well. We don't know. But what's going to bring me back? Like, what's going to attach me to these characters? It can't just be winning a sword fight. It's got to be something else. And especially if, like, Arondir loses his love interest, like, that's a big thing.
It is a big thing.
Like, I liked him because, like, yeah, he was a badass, but, like, also, like, he was fighting for love, and I like that.
And he stayed behind.
Yeah, he stayed behind with it, and with his people. He, like, almost forsook, like, his own people to protect the village of the Southlands because of Bronwyn. And so that was, like, a big thing. And so it's like, okay, I don't love, what was his, the bad guy at Numenor. I always forget his name.
Pharazôn.
Pharazôn. I don't care about his son and Elendil's daughter.
We haven't seen hardly hide nor tail of them in the trailer.
And so it's like, I don't want like this will they, won't they of Sauron and Galadriel type stuff. I don't know.
No, I think I think they are. But that's because they're not interesting. But they're just bigots. And we have to see whether she's going to walk out of looking into the Palantir a bigot or not. Again, like, I don't think there's a lot of sexual intrigue there. I think they just suck.
I need some love, though. I need some sexual tension. It doesn't, like, I don't need some, like, we just did our first episode on Patreon for Game of Thrones, and I think there's at least 9 naked women in the pilot episode. I don't need that in Rings of Power.
No one's talking about that,
No one's talking about that, but I need some sexual tension. I need some love. I need oh my gosh, when are they going to get together? I like that. If you're going to tell a classic fantasy story, that's a big part of it.
It's a huge part of it. Even if you felt like Eowyn got done dirty or whatever, like it's still there's a reason why Peter Jackson adapted things the way he did and enhanced certain parts of the story because it keeps us coming back for more. Arwen never faltered in her love for Aragorn. Aragorn never told her, "I'm leaving you for this." They were together. It was going to be the thing. But it works for the large on-screen epic storytelling. And maybe I am reading into Celebrimbor and Sauron being in love, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of esteem. There's a lot of good acting.
I think you read too much about in love. I think you just want to bone. Like, I think Celebrimbor just wants to bone.
Celebrimbor wants. Well, again, this is
bone bore.
Anna. No, I can't. I should have workshopped it before. Anal tar.
I think we're gonna get banned. I think we're gonna get banned on that one. Cut that one.
Very good.
Cut that one.
No, I'm not going to.
Cut it for the West Coast.
No, yeah. Okay, Lauren. I'm hopeful. I think you're right. The trailers just are like bangers.
The trailers got me hyped. I almost like I am a little nervous because like even I was hyped for season 1 because Lord of the Rings. I'm there. I haven't had it since The Hobbit. I'm here for new content, baby. I'm here for a new story. But it didn't work out that great. For one reason or the other. But this, I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, if the trailer was mediocre, I'd be the first one to be like, okay, we're going to watch it. I'm really hopeful for it. Here's what didn't work. I'm on the gravy train, baby. I'm aboard the hype train right now.
And just from like a macro bird's eye perspective, political perspective, woke perspective, I really hope it does do well so that a lot of the haters can't point to, well, J.J. Abrams got rid of Rosie Tran and, Like, let's just do it right, guys. Because I really, really do not think, personally, that Rings of Power was casting so that it could be accepted. I think they cast the way they wanted to cast. They cast the right actors for the roles. And they told the story that they felt like they should tell. Not because it needs to be a woman-led story. Not because we need this. Not because we need elves of color. We did need those things. And I still think they're telling an excellent story apropos of that.
And also, I think most rational people, like the trolls and the grifters, are going to be who they are.
It's so true. It's so true.
There's no point. But for a lot of people that didn't, like are in our comments saying like, oh, well, they didn't do this. Like, Galadriel was never tempted by the ring, or, Sauron never touched the three, so on and so forth. Those are valid criticisms. I think if the way they tell it works, people will be okay with it. Exactly what you were saying with Aragorn, and Arwen, how much they changed Aragorn in the story. Aragorn was about that life in the books from day one.
Ready to take up the mantle.
He had the shards of Narsil when he met the hobbits at the Prancing Pony. Like, he had it on him. Like, he was just there. They got the sword forged before the Fellowship fucking began. Like, he had it from day one. He wanted to be king. But the story in the movie worked because of the acting, because of the writing, and everything
Pacing,
came together so well. So I do think that if they change a lot of this story, if it's told well, if it's acted well, people will be okay with it. Rational people will be okay with it.
Yeah. And perhaps those things were tough to swallow because the pacing was also tough to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you and I come back to this in 18 years to talk about it and look at the whole series as a whole, because we rewatched it, we will see the bigger picture. I really do think so. Because right now, it's kind of hard being in the middle of it, but you have to consider that too. Yeah. Are they building something to stand the test of time? Awesome. But also get us to love it now. I'm hopeful that they're going to, and that they figured out what they needed to do. Well, I think that about wraps up our thoughts. We absolutely need and want to hear from you because we're engaging with your thoughts. And honestly, you're changing hearts and minds just like we're trying to. Be the change, people. We are going to be your fellows in this journey during the Rings of Power season.
Be your fellows on this ship.
Oh, snap. If you sign up for Patreon now, you can get exclusive access to our House of the Dragon podcast and our brand new Game of Thrones podcast if you're just dying for more content. We're not able to get these episodes out any sooner than Friday after the episode of Rings of Power airs, so that's going to be our way to say thank you for supporting us there.
Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, guys. It costs you nothing and helps us out in a long way. Leave a comment about your predictions for Rings of Power Season 2. We might just read them in next week's episode. Like, I am definitely going to be looking forward to our Discord discussions after the episode and predictions for each episode. Special thanks to Jesse Gillespie, who's a Patreon member at the Elven Ring tier, and starting in September, we'll be adding a special thanks card to our outro for everyone at the $5 Patreon tier as our way of saying thank you. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or your preferred podcast player, please give us 5 stars and write a review if you feel like it. It helps us out so much.
That's wonderful. And Ben, until next time, which is basically at the end of this week,
may our paths meet again for 3 times this weekend.